Hey, top of the morning, everybody. Welcome to a Thirsty Thursday edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I'm Emerson Lotze. We got a lot coming up here in the next 55 minutes. Got a small NBA slate. We're going to break down Winter Classic. We're going to discuss that with Anna Dua here in studio. Bowl season continues. But let's start in the NFL with my guy, Ross Tucker. And you know, our Lord and Savior, Trevor Lawrence, plays prime time football tonight as week 16 around the league kicks off. It's damn good to have you here, Ross. How are you?
I'm awesome. Two thoughts, Emerson. Number one, how can I get a sweater like that? I mean, DraftKings has been advertising on all my podcasts since 2014. I think I'm like the original, the OG podcast they advertised on.
It's true.
And I can't get that amazing sweater.
It's
I would wear that sweater all the time. I love it. Secondly, as a noted Jags fan, and in fact, maybe the world's most famous Jags fan, how excited are you for tonight, dude? Like this has got to be the most excited you've been for a Jags game in 5 years, maybe?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Since the 2017 season with Blake the Boat Bortles. Absolutely. I'm a little nervous. I'm excited in the back of my head because you went out, you make the playoffs. We should be able to beat the Texans next week. Tennessee at home in week 18, which could be one of the biggest games in franchise history. But short week, weather's going to be crap. We're coming off two extreme highs. I say we, now I'm a member of the team here. But I don't know. It's kind of feeling a little bit like a letdown spot for me. What do you think, like on the surface, looking at this game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome game. I mean, it's kind of feels like a must-win game for both of these teams.
Yes, it is.
And who would have thought that, by the way, when the schedule came out, that December 22nd would be this amazing winner-take-all type of important must-win game between the Jets and the Jags. I mean, good job there by our NFL schedule makers. I'm pumped. Look, we'll get into it, but it's hard not to lean to Jacksonville when you look at these two quarterbacks. It just is.
Is that the direction you would be leaning in terms of players who could potentially go off tonight? So, like, anyone watching needs someone in their lineups that's going to produce some fantasy points tonight. Who do you expect to have a big night tonight?
Yeah, I can't go with one of those two guys. They're talking about pretty decent wins, like freezing rain. I'll go ETN. You know, we know Sauce Gardner is legit as a corner for the Jets. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to drive the ball down the field a lot. So I think the Jags will try to lean on the running game and get the ball in the screen game to Travis Etienne, their stud running back. Maybe just get him some one-on-one matchups against linebackers. So I kind of like Etienne. I think this is an Etienne game for the Jags.
Yeah, because looking at Trevor Lawrence passing props too, I mean, he's at 211.5 yards for tonight for his total. Zach Wilson, 196.5. I definitely think odds makers are paying a little bit of attention to potential nasty weather there in New York tonight or New Jersey. How about someone flying under the radar? Is there a player tonight flying under the radar right now? Maybe a dark horse who could impact tonight's result?
Okay, so I'm guessing the people that watch The Sweat and are watching right now, they know all about Zonovan Knight.
Yeah.
But right before the show started, I retweeted at Ross Tucker NFL that I was going to be on there. So now we have millions, literally, of new viewers right now. So for some of those people that aren't quite as familiar after my incredible retweet, Zonovan Knight, this rookie running back for the Jets, if you follow it closely, you know he's been good for about a month now. But if you don't follow it closely and you just feel like playing something tonight, go with Zonovan Knight. You probably never even heard of him. I'm here to tell you, he's good. He's really good. He's a banger. And I think the Jets are going to try to run the crap out of the ball rather than have Zach Wilson throw it, especially in the elements. So have Zonovan be your knight in shining armor tonight. You get it, Emerson? Do you get it?
I listen, I totally get it. His usage is up. He's logged at least 14 carries over the past 4 weeks. Another game with 14 plus touches here, Ross. More than justifies paying $7,000 for him to roster him tonight in showdowns for sure, dude. So on the DK Sportsbook, let's get into that now. Jags now 2.5-point underdogs on the road. This thing has been moving a little bit over the past 24 hours here, Ross. Which side are you favoring in this one? I think you referenced how you like America's team, maybe a money line bet. What's the way to go here? You still get plus money in the Jags right now.
I don't really understand why the line is so feverishly going in the Jags direction. You know, before they were only getting a point. Now it's up to 2.5. Is it the weather? Is it no Cam Robinson or Trayvon Walker? What the Jags are now, Emerson, is an unbelievable teaser leg.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take them from 2.5 up to 8.5, pair them with one of these other games. That's up to you. But think about that. I mean, up to 8.5, plus they think it'll be a low scoring game. So the value of a teaser is even more the lower scoring they think it'll be. So love the Jags as a teaser leg. Even without that, I would definitely lean Jags money line or taking the 2.5. I mean, I guess there's a chance it gets up to 3. If it gets up to 3, gobble that bad boy up right away.
I mean, the total's kind of been sitting around the same area, Ross. So, like right now in the DK Sportsbook, 37. And I know the over has hit 4 in a row for Jacksonville, which, by the way, an impressive 8-1 in its last 9 games on the road for the Jags. What do you like here? Because, again, we have to keep referencing the weather here tonight and a short week. And not to mention Zach Wilson on the other side.
Yeah, so I really liked the over at 36.
Okay.
Now at 37, you're on a push. If it's 20-17, I probably still would lean over a little bit. It really depends on the wind, man. It's such a factor.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jags just gave up a boatload of points to the Cowboys. Their defense isn't playing great. The Jags offense has been playing so well. Trevor Lawrence just lit up a pretty good Cowboys defense. So I'll still lean over.
Yes.
But I liked it more at 36.
Okay. And in this series, by the way, the over 5-0 in the past 5 meetings. We're going 5-1 the previous 6 meetings in New Jersey as well. So I'm picking up what you're putting down here. Hey, the rest of the slate, most of these games are going down on Christmas Eve on Saturday here. What's your early favorite bet for this weekend? And man, weather is going to make the headlines. You see how cold it's going to be in some of these games, dude? I don't know how the hell you could survive it. You played in Buffalo, even though I know that game's in Chicago.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? When it's really cold, you take a shower after the game and your skin like burns, like stings.
Ooh, yeah.
You have to start out with like a cold/lukewarm shower.
Like ease your way in?
Work into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well if your skin is like frostbitten 0 degrees and you just hop in a hot shower. That like the physics, the math does not work there.
Wait, so
I did that in Cincinnati in 2004 and it was like stinging. It was bad.
Ross, what was the coldest game you played in, dude?
That game.
How cold was it?
I started for the Bills. Ironically, Emerson, it was at Cincinnati, which you would think like, I didn't realize Cincinnati even got that cold.
Yeah,
it was less than 10 degrees.
Oh.
One of the 10 coldest games in Bills history. I went out on the field before the game in a T-shirt, and Chad Johnson was like, "Hey, buddy, you're going to be cold." I was like, "I'll be all right, dude. I'll be all right." We killed him. It was awesome, but it was really, really cold. 2 bets I'll give out there. I like Seattle getting all those points against the Chiefs. Chiefs have not looked good the last couple weeks. Geno Smith is still playing well. Pro Bowler Geno Smith still playing well. And they need the game desperately. Last I checked, it was 9.5. What's up to 10 now?
Yeah.
I'm looking on DK Sportsbook. Wow. Take the 10 points with the Seahawks. And then kind of like Minshew Mania, bro.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Eagles getting the points against the Cowboys. There's always now 5, 5.5, 6. I'll take those points because I think it's a close game regardless.
Yeah, looking at KC, 0-6-1 ATS in their last 7 contests.
Wow.
It's not good. And question for you real quick before we wrap up. How big of a drop off is it from Jalen Hurts to Gardner Minshew? Like, can Gardner Minshew still, with all those pieces around him in Philly, can he lead them to a win in Dallas against the Cowboys?
Yeah, he can. I think there's a decent chance he does. Eagles are kind of playing like they don't have to play, they don't have anything to play for, right? Like they can play free and loose. They only have to win one of these last 3 games, whereas the Cowboys feel like, oh, we got to win. Cowboys are kind of in a no-win situation now, right?
Yeah.
You beat the backup, okay. You lose, ooh, that looks real bad. I think there's a decent chance the Eagles are right there with them. Should be an awesome, awesome football game. We're looking forward to it. Christmas Eve evening.
Okay. All right, man. You got big plans for Christmas? Are you calling any of those games?
Raiders, Steelers, Christmas Eve night. Probably get home around 4 a.m. Maybe sleep an hour and a half, 2 hours till my daughters jump in bed to see whether or not Santa came.
Dude, dad of the year, man. Dad of the year.
Not really. I'm going to a football game. I'm getting paid to go call a football game, come home, sleep a couple hours, do the Santa thing, go on adrenaline all morning, get to my in-laws in the afternoon. Unbelievable excuse to take like a 3-hour nap on the couch while they're talking about where they're from and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
It actually works out perfectly.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing like Tucker's spreads there for on Christmas morning or maybe Christmas dinner or something. But good stuff, dude. We've had a good time with it this year, and I guess we'll talk to you next year in 2023.
Sounds awesome. Good luck tonight, man. Enjoy it.
All right. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I will have a lot to do with the result for sure. Coming up, we're going to continue to look at the Week 16 slate with Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich and Dak, and the Cowboys recover from their overtime loss to America's team, the Jaguars. Can the whole league handle this incoming weather this weekend? For that, let's bring in someone who knows a thing or two about weather.
What's up, everybody? Roto-Grinders meteorologist Kevin Roth here, talking about maybe the ugliest week in NFL weather I have ever seen. It's hideous. There's at least 8 games that are going to be impacted by this weather, but they're not all going to be impacted equally. So let's break it down here. I've got 3 different tiers. The first grouping of games is bad weather, but probably good enough weather where it's cold, but it's not windy enough to have any major impacts on play. Next grouping of games that will be significantly impacted. And then last but not least, I've got a game that is just essentially a no-go because the weather is truly horrible. Let's start at the top, though. These are the games where it's cold. In a lot of cases, these games are being played with temperatures in the teens or 20s, well below freezing. But winds, for the most part here in this grouping, are going to be around 10 to 15 miles per hour or less. And that means while the cold has some impacts, with those lighter winds, teams can still throw the ball. They can still execute that game plan that they want to going into the game. And that includes Houston at Tennessee, Seattle at Kansas City, Cincy at New England, Atlanta at Baltimore, and then the Raiders at Pittsburgh. All of those in any other week would kind of be a bad weather game. But this week, compared to some of the games that will follow, those games are good enough. Next up are those games where I do expect some fairly significant impacts, and it starts Thursday Night Football. Jacksonville at New York Jets. It's sloppy here. It's going to be cold. Temperatures are in the 40s and raining essentially all game. And it looks like moderate to heavy rain all game long. That causes an increase in turnovers. It makes it harder to throw the ball. It makes it harder to catch the ball. It's just hard for offenses to fire on all cylinders in those kinds of conditions. It will be impactful there. And then also in that same grouping of really impactful weather would be Buffalo at Chicago. This is ugly stuff. Like about 10-degree temperature with a 20-mile-per-hour sustained wind. And that means the feels like temperatures are going to come in at 10 degrees below zero. The 20-mile-per-hour wind on its own is a big enough issue for me. We're going to see gusts up over 30. It makes it hard to throw it deep. It makes it hard to kick longer field goals. These are 2 quarterbacks here who can use their legs, kind of the saving grace in that one. But the deep passing game and the kicking game is certainly going to be impacted. And I mentioned a feels like temperature of 10 below, just brutal stuff. And then last but not least, this is one of the worst games I have seen all year. It's New Orleans at Cleveland, and it's about as bad as it gets. You're talking 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds. Wind gusts should be 40 miles per hour or stronger. And when you get that kind of wind, you just can't efficiently move the ball. You can't throw it deep. Intermediate routes are tough, and the defense is playing up on the short routes. They're playing up on the run. This is one of those games where 3 handoffs and a punt would generally be considered a decent possession, but I don't even know if they're going to be able to punt properly because of those winds. I'm not sure you can even gain yardage if you're trying to punt into a wind like that. It is very ugly weather, and it is a huge downgrade to the passing attack in that game. All of these games that I mentioned, all of them will be impacted, but it really is that last one that is going to see the worst of it. Now, these forecasts, of course, will change as we get a little bit closer to kickoff here, so make sure you're following along on rotogrinders.com with my latest updates, or follow me on Twitter at KevinRothWX.
All right, look at this total here between the Saints and the Browns. As you've heard 1,000 times on this show throughout the week, and 1,000 times on whatever national sports programs you watch, the weather is going to be disgusting. It's going to be frightful outside. 32, that total, the lowest total since 2008 in the NFL. Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich, bring it in, baby. We just heard Kevin Roth. By the way, both of you look great. I must say, Jeff's Santa hat looks like the real deal, and sources are telling me he actually stole it from the real Jolly St. Nick.
Sources are correct. Direct from Santa.
Get the hell out of my house, you overweight, bearded stranger. Anywho, Pierce, you look handsome too. But you guys just both just heard Kevin Roth talking about the weather in the Saints-Browns game. So that's going to be one of the worst weather games he's ever seen. And Kevin's been alive for hundreds of years. Also, one of the lowest totals we remember seeing, lowest since 2008. Is this a complete stay-away spot for you, Jeff?
I mean, in terms of what? In terms of DFS? Yeah, absolutely. It's a stay-away spot. You do not need to get, like, it's not even being contrarian. It's just being, it's being hashtag stupid, probably, to be using players from this game. So, look, in terms of betting, I mean, we're basically playing the weather here. And I think that you need to play meteorologist if you're going to bet this game. We have seen in the past the Bills in Miami being a perfect example from last week. Oh, it's the snowpocalypse. Oh, it's so terrible that the teams aren't even going to be able to score 30 points. And then they put up, what did they put up last week? Like 60? I mean, give me a break. So I'll say this. The weather actually looks better right now for this game than it did earlier in the week. The winds have died down a little bit. Would it shock me if this was if the weather got improved to the point where they could actually start completing some forward passes? It wouldn't. And I think it's something that you need to take a look at. Right now, some props that I would take a look at on the DraftKings Sportsbook, Andy Dalton, under 0.5 passing touchdowns. That's something I like, a plus 130. Again, even if the weather is okay, I mean, Dalton can hit this for us. You know, I think the Saints are still going to be taking a run-heavy approach. So actually surprised to see that prop up there. But in terms of kind of almost anything else to do with this game, you do need to wait. You need to wait, and you need to see and get as much information as possible before you start making some real decisions. Uh-oh. Are we...
Hello? Am I there?
There
Hello?
you are.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell just happened? Pierce, I was screaming at you, Pierce. I was like, Pierce, answer this. What's the move with this game on the DK Sportsbook? Maybe not making a move at all?
Merry Christmas. So I'm looking out the window here in Northern Ohio. We're looking good right now. But I agree with some of these meteorologists that, look, the snow totals aren't going to be that high, but it's the wind, it's the cold weather, it's the blizzard-like conditions. There may be limited visibility. You might not even be able to see the hand in front of your face. If you're watching this thing on TV, it might be one of those games where it's just a blank white screen where you can't see anything. Some of these models have the weather projected as low as negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty bad. I don't think we can overstate how bad this weather is going to be. And for that reason, I think it's lined way too high. 32 points. I just don't see it. You've got a dome team that's going to come in here. Like, maybe Cleveland has a little bit of an advantage, but once the weather gets this bad, I don't think any team has an advantage. I don't think any team's going to want to be out there. I don't expect any points to be scored. The weather's bad. Stay away, but if you're going to bet the under.
The team totals here look absurdly high, especially I would say for the Saints. You're basically asking the Saints to score over 2 touchdowns. That's like in those kind of conditions. Again, we want to wait. We want to see what it is. But like, yeah, there's the unders are still to play. Absolutely. Doesn't even matter that they move that much.
All right, well, we talked about Eagles, Cowboys, right, yesterday in terms of total. Cowboys have gone from a 1.5-point favorite to now 6-point favorites. We know Jalen Hurts is not going to play. Gardner Minshew will now be under center, which I have no idea why it's impacted the line that much. But are the Cowboys in a good spot here, Jeff, against a division rival? Now, keep in mind, the home team has also covered 7 of the last 8 matchups in this rivalry.
Yeah. As I found out from you yesterday, it's not really that big a downgrade, apparently, going from the potential MVP down to Gardner Minshew. So, yeah, look, I'm going to take the opposite side of this, though. I think this is a tough spot for the Eagles. I really do. I think that, when the line has moved a lot, and yeah, +6, you could definitely make a case just to stay off it. But, this just screams to me bounce back spot for the Dallas Cowboys. They've had some rough road games. They haven't played the AFC South well at all, but at home, Dallas is extremely good at covering his home favorites. They've been that way over the last couple seasons. And I think that they can attack the Eagles run game. I think that's the main thing here that gives me concerns as an Eagles fan. Eagles still bottom, below average in terms of rush DVOA. You've got Tony Pollard out there. You're going to have an Eagles team that's probably going to be stalling out a little bit more on their drives, giving the Dallas Cowboys better field position. I know the Philly's going to try and make this ugly, but and just maybe try and squeak out a close game, but I just don't think it's going to work. I think Dallas could come in here, control it from start to finish. And if this line dips back under 6, I would jump on the Cowboys.
Okay, Pierce, any chance you want to back the Eagles here?
Yeah, I'll back the Eagles.
Hell yeah, brother.
Side. Dallas has been really good against the spread the last 2 seasons, especially this season, but not of late. 3 of the last 4 they have not covered. And every one of those games, they were in a good spot. Every one of those games, they should have controlled the game, and they absolutely didn't. They really should have missed the cover in all 4 games, but they had a historic fourth quarter against the Indianapolis Colts, a game that they weren't covering. Then they explode for 30-some points. They don't necessarily look right. And look, I don't think Minshew is Jalen Hurts, but if you look at the games that he played last season, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to hold his games in Jacksonville against him too much. It wasn't really that he had a good team around him. He's got superstar receivers. He's got a great running backs around him. He's got a great offensive line. Dallas Goedert is going to be back. The defense for the Eagles is still top notch. And you could easily see Dallas overlooking the Eagles just as they've overlooked every single team over the last month. Don't count the Eagles out. I think I agree with Ross Tucker that Minshew can win this game.
All right, so now we have the Lions. We'll wrap up here with your Lions, Pierce, who are an actual 500 football team now. Congratulations. So they're continuing to make a push for the playoffs. And shockingly, the Panthers are in last place in the NFC South, and they're also still in the playoff picture right now. Lions are 2.5-point favorites on the road. Where are you leaning, Pierce?
It's the Lions. The
Yeah.
Lions are ATS kings. They cover spreads 21-10 against the spread with Dan Campbell. That's where there are actually a 500-team meme has started. Now they actually are. We've willed it into existence. We have spoke it, and so the simulation has made it so. Now the Lions are a 500 team. We have to say that they're a 750 team or something moving forward. They've covered 7 in a row. So why stop now? Well, the Panthers have covered actually 6 of their last 8. And under their new head coach, they kind of look a lot like a Dan Campbell type of Detroit Lions team. But ultimately, I'll take the Lions because they're the better team. And if you really dissect the Panthers covers, the reason why they're still in the hunt is because they haven't played anybody over the last 2 months. They've had a pretty soft schedule. Detroit is the toughest team that the Panthers have faced in 2 months, and Detroit will cover.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, talk to me here, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right in line with Pierce on this one. The Panthers were also covering because they were just undervalued. They have a kind of a feisty defense, and they definitely got a little bit of bump from the coaching change. But they're also they're not that good. I mean, good teams don't allow the Steelers to come in and bully you around at home when you're 3-point favorites, which is exactly what happened last week. I'm surprised at this line. I think there's been a little bit of what you call sharp money coming in and backing the Panthers at +3, which is why this line has moved back down to 2.5. But I'm just I'll just ride with, like Pierce said, the better team here. I mean, I don't think that the Panthers really have anything that's going to scare us too much. They've been getting some pressure, but the Lions O-line has been really good this year. DeAndre Swift is back healthy, and their defense has been stuffing the run. So you're basically asking Sam Darnold now to come in and beat you. He couldn't do anything against a weak Steelers secondary last week. I don't know why that would change against the Lions. I'll take Detroit here to cover.
Detroit has real playoff momentum right now. And by the way, Pierce.
Serious playoff momentum.
Yeah.
Not
Pierce,
real, serious.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Real
It's the same word. Congrats, Pierce, on Geno Smith being named to the Pro Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Did Russ make it?
I don't think so, man. Oh, my God. All right, we got to go. So the cold weather, we obviously know it's going to impact this weekend's games in the NFL. Should make for some great conditions when we're talking outdoor hockey, though. There's going to be one at Fenway Park. That's right, for the Winter Classic coming up here on January 2nd. We have DFS hockey plays coming up in just a minute. But first, NHL.com's Anna Dua. She was in Boston recently and joined me in studio to preview the NHL's annual outdoor game. All right, everybody, Emerson Lottie here in our DraftKings studio, joined now by one of our favorites of all time. And I mean all time, NHL.com's Anna Dua. How are you? How's Boston been treating you?
Boston's been great. Every time I'm here, I have the absolute best time. Love that intro. Made me feel even better on my trip.
That's what we want to do. We want to pick you up, lift you up before we tear you down. All right, you're shooting content right now for the Winter Classic.
Yes.
Or is it the Discover Winter Classic? Is that what you guys have to say?
The 2023 Discover NHL Winter
Yeah,
Classic.
there it is.
From Fenway
Okay.
Park, January 2nd. Watch.
All right, awesome, fantastic. You're basically just reading my line on the prompter. Which local favorites have you dug up so far when you're hanging out around town here?
So, I mean, we came here to show people coming to the big game places to go. So that'll be up on the NHL's YouTube channel
Sweet.
a little bit closer to the Winter Classic. But I hit up a lot of great spots. I went to Tresca, which is Ray Bork's restaurant.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just amazing. He's a Canadian guy. He was on the Canadian Olympic team. Obviously, Boston Bruins legend, Stanley Cup champion with the Colorado Avalanche. And just seeing what he's done, having this restaurant that is phenomenal, by the way.
Yep.
I tried everything on the menu. Everything was a straight 10 out of 10. And just knowing that Ray Bork is a part of it, I mean, it's hockey history.
It's pretty cool.
And it's in the North End. I love the
Yep.
North End. All the places there.
Oh
are
my
amazing.
God, there's so much good Italian food. You were able to suck down like a bunch of oysters, I'm told, right? Shucking some oysters.
Yeah.
You went and hung out around Fenway too?
Yeah, Fenway. We went to Union Oyster House. We went
Okay.
to Modern Pastry and got to hit
Yes.
up all of the great Boston spots. Went on a duck boat tour, walked around. It was just the best trip.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, duck boat tour. Hey, maybe the Bruins end up being on those duck boats come late spring, early summer on the championship parade through the streets here of Boston. So this has been a great event for the league, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be the second time that's been held at Fenway. Which games have you liked more? Have you liked the games more, let's say in an old ballpark or like a football stadium? What side do you fall on there?
I mean, I think like Fenway's super special just because it's one of the most historic stadiums
Amen.
in all of sports. So when you get to have the opportunity to play a game like this at Fenway, I know they've already had one there, but it's extra special, right?
It's really
so
cool.
I really like the ballpark ones. I like the stadium ones too. I mean, they're all great. I went to the Winter Classic with the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Way back now. I'm getting old. That
Yeah,
was
you
at
are.
BMO, which was the MLS/CFL stadium in Toronto. And that was fun. It was very cold, but I got to go baseball with this one. I think there's a lot of history with the MLB. The NHL is a very historic league as well, but really getting to be a part of that history just adds so much to the sport.
So do you have a favorite game when we're talking like Winter Classics, like over the years?
I mean, the Pittsburgh one was one of my favorite ones. I think like the Penguins are playing in this one as well. I think the Penguins and the Bruins.
Yeah, that's because, you got the John Henry
Yeah.
ownership group, the Fenway
Yeah.
ownership group
Yeah.
now. They're like, hey, we'll bring our team in. And Bruins like, sure, we'll go like a mile and a half up the road.
Yeah.
It's like super easy.
Yeah.
You knew that. I feel like once Henry's group purchased the Penguins, like we knew this game was going to happen
Yeah.
at some point.
It's great, but I mean, I remember 2008 with Pittsburgh, 2010 with Pittsburgh, so those were a couple of good games. Washington played at Nats Park. That was a really special Winter Classic for the Washington Capitals, so all of those games have been awesome. Seeing Dallas play in 2020,
Yeah.
right before COVID hit, was really special. I
Yeah.
mean, seeing a Winter Classic in the South, now that's something that's really, really special.
It's true. And you know what else is really special about the Winter Classic? These jerseys. So what has been your favorite Winter Classic sweater?
The Bruins always have a good one, but I'm going with the Penguins powder blue one.
I actually like those.
You like those? I love those. I mean, how iconic, and like Sidney Crosby's
Yep.
prime, it's just been unreal.
I also love the color. I feel like everybody looks good in baby blue. Like it's tough to look bad in that shade of blue.
They do. And the Penguins rocked it. I love their logo. I loved everything about that look. That was a great Winter Classic,
Yeah.
so 10 out of 10.
And like speaking of looking good too, we see a lot of these teams like play dress up a little bit, like these themes before the games. What we have the Bruins Peaky Blinders inspired attire. That was at Notre Dame Stadium. And then the Blues showing up last year in beach attire. That was -5 on a -5 day. So what's been the best look so far? Come on, I know you know fashion.
I hope I know fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the Bruins one. I think Peaky Blinders, great show, big fan. So I love that they did that. So honestly, that might be my favorite. I'll tell you which one I didn't like, okay? This isn't even a Winter Classic, it's a Heritage Classic. But the Toronto Maple Leafs rolling in with that construction apparel that they were wearing before the Sabres game in the Heritage Classic this past year.
I actually forgot about that.
Did you forget about that?
Yeah.
Good. You should forget about that. I mean, and if anyone tries to say they were honoring Hamilton where it was taking place, I'm from Burlington, so I have the right to say that it was a terrible, terrible look. So as long as you're not doing that, I'm A-okay. I like taking it from a TV show, though, so I love the Peaky Blinders one.
Because I know, like, going back to the Winter Classic with the Stars, like, they dressed up all in, like, cowboy gears, like Western cowboy gear. And then also to go back to the Bruins, before the Lake Tahoe game, they were all in 90s attire, which actually looked really cool. And that's, like, more of my generation there, 80s, 90s. So, speaking of Tahoe, outdoor games, right? Non-traditional places, Notre Dame Stadium. We talked about Lake Tahoe here. What other kind of locations would you like to see the league explore?
It would be awesome to play in more unique locations. Central Park, New York City.
Yes,
I mean,
Central Park's a great
Rangers in the
one.
Winter Classic. That would be so fun. I know people.
How about Times Square?
Yeah.
Put a rink in Times
right
Square.
There, right outside of our offices. Just have the Winter Classic right there in New York. But Central Park in New York would be crazy if the Rangers played. Lake Louise.
All right.
Alberta, I mean, that is the best pond hockey location in the entire world.
Yeah.
So that would, I don't even know how that would happen, but
I don't either, but like that's the fun part of this. You could sit there and you could just figure out a location and then like let the smart people like deal with the logistics of it.
Deal with the logistics, and why don't we just send them to a place that loves hockey but doesn't have an NHL team? Let's go out to the Maritimes. Let's go to Nova Scotia. Let's go to New Brunswick.
I was saying
let's
go to
Prince Edward
Wembley.
Island.
Go to Wembley Stadium.
Go across the pond.
Take it across the pond. Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls. I love that idea. I don't know how you could do it, but like the falls, like sometimes you've been around there, like it'll like freeze up there up top, which would look cool.
In the falls.
You're gonna let it just like rage like down at the bottom. Also make it the Leafs and the Sabres.
Yeah, Niagara Falls classic.
Two teams that Tim Horton played for.
Yeah.
That's what comes to mind for me. How about like a Daytona Speedway?
I like that. I like that.
Something really weird at the track. Make it the Lightning. Make it the
Panthers. Love it. See, this is what we need. And then when they walk in for the Niagara Falls one, they can wear the Made of the Mist ponchos.
That is sick.
As they're walking, the Canada side and the U.S. side ponchos meet in the middle.
Oh, dude, that's what you do. You grab it. Yes. Oh my God, that's just like too perfect.
I know.
I went on Made of the Mist like a few hours after I proposed to my wife too. We were hanging out in Buffalo. I'm like, let's go celebrate like Made of the Mist. And the family's like, who is this weirdo? We talk a lot of fantasy on this show. So let's look through this game through a fantasy lens here. Like when you play fantasy contests just around the Winter Classic here, how different is your approach? Because my guess is, do you have to take into consideration like the building and all sorts of stuff, the fact that it's outside?
Yeah, I would maybe if it wasn't the Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins playing in another Winter Classic. I mean, these teams are very well accustomed to these situations. They play it in a ton. I'm looking a lot at the Penguins right now. Sidney Crosby is a standout player for me in fantasy, by the way, this year. He leads the league in even strength points. I mean, he's not aging a day right now.
No, he doesn't.
Definitely up there. Maybe also a dark horse Hart contender this season. And he's played in his fair share amount of Winter Classics, so maybe he's bringing that luck with him up to Fenway. But the Bruins have as well, so I guess you just treat it like any other game if it's these two teams.
All right, so just like any other showdown that you're going to have like on DraftKings. That's it. Okay, before you go, what's your New Year's resolution? Anything? You got anything?
Any New Year's resolution?
A New Year's resolution?
Just for me, myself, personally?
Do you do that? Yeah.
I mean, okay, so my birthday's New Year's, Emerson.
Wait,
so
New Year's Day?
New Year's Day, it's Anna Day.
Oh, yeah!
Anna Day.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Anna Day 2023 coming up, so I'm turning 24, and this has been the best year.
I love the comment you made earlier. I'm feeling old. I'm getting old.
Turning
Grow
24.
up.
But this has been such a special year, getting to be on DraftKings for the first time, getting to start with the NHL this year. So my New Year's resolution for next year is to go to the Stanley Cup Final. I've been to one as a fan, but cover a Stanley Cup Final for the first time in my life.
All right.
So.
Well, that'd be awesome. I mean, I guess you're going to watch the Bruins hoist the trophy
I don't know.
there.
I was bad luck, apparently. So maybe you don't want me there.
And then you come here for the duck boat parade that we have after every championship.
I'll drive the boat. That's what I did. I
Very
drove it.
good.
So I'll
Very
drive
good.
it
You're
for the
here.
brand.
You're alive and well. I'm assuming all the passengers are fine too. But good stuff. Yeah, we appreciate you and Pete hanging out with us like all the time. You guys do a killer job, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for stopping by the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, and what do you know? The Bruins and the Penguins, the two Winter Classic teams, going down at Fenway Park January 2nd on a Monday, are in action tonight. So the Penguins hosting the Hurricanes, Bruins on the road to the Great White North, visiting the Winnipeg Jets. Let's get some best DFS plays here from NHL.com's Pete Jensen and RotoWire's Paul Bruno. So an 8-game slate, but only 7 games on the main slate tonight. Paul, what's up with the 2 o'clock game today with your guys?
The Leafs have done a promotion called the Next Generation Game. They want people to bring kids to games just like back in the 60s, I guess, 50s and 60s. They had Young Canada Night, it was called here. And so they're doing the revival of that sort of thing. I went a couple of years in a row. I sold the tickets for today's game, though, and I'll be watching it up 2 o'clock. I kind of like the idea of an afternoon hockey. Too.
Yeah, I do too. You're going to have a lot of people playing hooky from work, that's for sure. So when it comes to the 2 Winter Classic teams tonight, Pete, Pittsburgh and the Bruins, again, separate games here, but they'll meet on January 2nd. What kind of interest do you have in rostering someone from one of those 2 teams in DFS?
I certainly have interest in spending up for Brad Marchand. He's been electric ever since coming back from that early season injury that caused him to miss about a month plus. I mean, he's got a 3-game point streak with power play points in each, 4 power play points actually in the span. So look at him for a power play shot prop, for to return value, even for 7,000 plus in DraftKings. And yeah, I mean, just the Bruins home point streak to open the season, 17-0-2, until somebody takes it away from them. And the Winnipeg Jets also, like Connor Hellebuck, their goaltender, is a bit murky for this game. There's also injuries to Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers. I think it's a good opportunity for Marchand and the Bruins to keep the good times rolling here.
Paul, how many Penguins and Bruins will be in your DFS lineup tonight?
You know what? At first glance, when I saw their matchups, I would have said 0. But then I started to look at the price points of some of these guys. And of course, Pete mentioned the one that stands out the most to me is Brad Marchand. This guy's $2,000 less than David Pastrnak, for instance. He shows up every night, particularly in the big games. So why wouldn't you take a shot at him, particularly at this discounted rate? I feel the same way about Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. Price points $7,400 and $6,400 respectively. You can't go wrong with a consistent scoring that they've both provided all season long. I know they got a tough matchup too, but you don't want to overlook these guys when they're such discounted prices. That's the bottom line.
All right, Paul. So you both like Marchand. Paul, you like Sid the Kid, but who's another forward tonight who makes a lot of sense? Try to squeeze into those lineups.
Well, I looked at the other 2 guys just because they have home matchups, and I feel the same way about a couple other people that I'm going to highlight now. Mika Zibanejad enjoying another prolific season. The guy's got 4 multi-point efforts in his last 10 starts, and he faces again an Islanders club that's only won 3 of their last 10 games. Meanwhile, Zibanejad's been instrumental in the Rangers' 7-2-1 record over their last 10 games. I like his chances to go for a 5th multi-point game in 11 games, costing $7,200 tonight.
Pete, who's another forward catches your eye tonight?
I've been impressed by the consistency of Kevin Fiala. Remember, he came from the Minnesota Wild after his breakout season last year to the LA Kings. And I feel like the 2 reasons why the Kings are staying afloat right now are Kevin Fiala's consistency, leading them in points with 35 and 35 games. And then the goaltender, Phoenix Copley, who has been a total revelation since getting the call up from the AHL. It's not Jonathan Quick anymore. It's not Cal Peterson because he's down in the AHL. It's Phoenix Copley. So really nice story there. So those are the 2 driving forces for LA, and home matchup against the Flames before the break. I feel like that's a good way for them to finish things out here in the first half on a high.
Pete, who's a defenseman you're going to stuff into your lineup tonight?
I'm looking at Dmitry Orlov. I like the price point, $4,300 at Ottawa. The Capitals, of course, are still waiting for Ovi to pass Gordie Howe here. That's the big storyline. But the bottom line is that there's still an offensive ripple effect throughout the entire lineup. And Orlov, since coming back from an injury, has been really strong. 4 points, 16 shots, 11 blocks in the 5 games since coming back. So it's kind of been a combination of the Ovechkin effect and then also they're slowly but surely getting some guys back from injuries. They still have more to come with guys like Backstrom and Wilson. So they're a team to look at from a future standpoint, no doubt. But here and now, in the midst of this goal scoring race, Orlov plays with Ovechkin at even strength and is a really nice value defenseman tonight in DFS.
Paul, how about this Josh Morrissey dude, man? Coming out year form, 6 goals, 38 points in 32 games. That's second best among blue liners behind only EK.
Yeah, I think that's a great option, but I'm going to lean on another guy. I looked at all the power play quarterbacks that are on the list. A lot of them are more expensive than the guy that I'm focused on, and that's Quinn Hughes. I know the Vancouver Canucks, they're looking like a bit of a tire fire right now, but in the midst of all that, Hughes has continued to click along at a point per game pace. Oddly, 27 points are all assists. So his play, though, he's going to guarantee owners that he's going to be on the ice for 24, 25 minutes again tonight. And I think that he's going to get lots of offensive opportunities. And again, the price point's lower than so many of his peers in that position for $5,200. It's a good value for me.
Gentlemen, we have run out of time. I wish you both a great holiday weekend. Have a great Christmas. Enjoy all the time and fun with your family and enjoy all that sticky puck. So we'll see you guys next year, okay? Adios.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Love you too,
Very
man.
best wishes to all.
Thank you, and to all a good night. And we're going to go good night right now. We got to take a break. We do. But on the other side, we're going to bring in the best DFS and sportsbook plays on a small 2-game slate for the association. Is Zion? Is he in a good spot against the Spurs? Let's find out what our NBA panel thinks just ahead. However, first, the college football playoff just around the corner, and our college football panel joined me to preview said matchups. Check it out. Jules, I know you've been a big Utes guy. Like all season long. They're going to be taking on Penn State, the granddaddy of them all, in the Rose Bowl here. So do you believe that Utah will avenge its loss against Ohio State at this time last year?
Last year, my favorite bowl bet was the Utes getting all those points against Ohio State.
That was a meltdown, right?
They covered, but they melted down.
Yeah.
I really wanted them on the money line in that game. This is the year that they're going to get it done. I don't love that we have some opt-outs. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, the big one. A favorite target of Cam Rising, Tavion Thomas, the big running back. Those are two key pieces that are out for Utah, and that hurts. I'll admit that. But it kind of evens out with the Penn State side. You got Parker Washington out. Joey Porter, one of the, a shutdown defender, is going to be out in this game. That hopefully opens things up for the Utes. I think, the Utes have been floating around. They opened at a pick. You can probably get like 130 money line. We'll see where this line goes. But as long as the money line is fair, this game's going to mean something to Utah after being there last year and not getting it and having the majority of their guys and a well-coached team against a team that is not very well-coached in game. I think Utah's going to get this one done.
Yeah, Colin, no Parker Washington. As Jules mentioned, no Joey Porter Jr. I mean, that feels maybe like a little too much to overcome for Penn State against Pac-12 champs.
Yeah, I like Utah here as well. This is a tough spot, I think, though, because this Utah team, and by the way, congratulations to Julian for cashing that Utah preseason ticket that I
hedged so much on USC like an idiot.
Yeah, Jules is a moron.
I mean, if Caleb doesn't get hurt, it was the right play because
if
I
Caleb
had
Williams
USC.
doesn't get hurt, that's a different game.
If Caleb Williams doesn't get hurt, you lose that ticket. So yeah, I got a little unlucky here because Caleb got hurt in the championship game. But yeah, I think this Utah team, they might be the best coached team in the country. It's either them or TCU, probably, maybe Kansas. But they're really well coached. They block really well. They're not as physical on the line though as some of these past Utah teams. They've sort of done a little bit with smoke and mirrors this year. I don't really like this game either way. If I like anything, I kind of think over. I think both these defenses are ripe for pickings, and especially with a month to prepare. There's going to be some horses missing, but again, if you're missing a running back, there's somebody else behind him that can still run. It's about the holes that get created. Utah, I think, will be able to create some holes, if not a ton. But yeah, for me, this is an over, especially in the good weather in Southern California.
All right, Chinmay, what do you think, dude?
I'm actually going the other way on the total here. I'm going with the under. And I think, this is going to be, every college football playoff discussion seems to circle around the Rose Bowl somehow. And Penn State has kind of been like the sort of barometer this year of, what does an expanded playoff look like? And Penn State would get in after, by all accounts, a successful season that they've had. But Penn State got absolutely lit up by Michigan and Ohio State. So when you talk about the gap between some of these top playoff teams and a team like Penn State or even a Clemson that would have gotten in an expanded playoff, it's a pretty sizable gap. And I think Utah is just the tougher, more physical team that plays a complete game, and Penn State does not. So I think this is not actually going to be that close. I would take Utah against the number. I would take the under on this one. I think this is going to be the Utes all day. Penn State just doesn't have the horses, and they run out of gas very quickly against some of these more physical teams.
Hey,
Utes
call.
all day. That's like my motto in life.
What's that?
Utes all day.
Yeah, I know. I used to work out there. Great school,
The way
fun
that is.
atmosphere. The must, Mighty Utah student section. All right, let's go. Fiesta Bowl. Best bet here. TCU, Michigan, Colin.
You are now on a TCN Standcast. Chin May was advocating for Max Duggan for the Heisman pretty much all season. I am all in on Hypnotoad. I think they've been the most fun team to watch this season. I think it's the best story. They sent me gear. That's a big motivating factor for me. Is that they sent me gear. They're big.
So
I'm
you're
a big
compromised.
Fan. I'm sorry, I'm
You're
completely compromised, but I am all in on this TCU team. I think they're extremely well coached. I think Sonny Dykes, there are a lot of great candidates for Coach of the Year this year, but you can't go wrong with Sonny Dykes, who did win the award. I think 8's just too many. I think they keep this thing close. TCU has shown an amazing ability to get boat raced early and then come back this season. I think maybe like a Michigan first half / TCU +8 might be the way to go here, because they just seem to get into games. Tell me how healthy Max Duggan is, though, because did he look beat up in the Big 12 championship game. Assuming he's healthy and ready to go, I wouldn't take first half. I'll take Michigan first half. They're going to be able to run the ball effectively. But second half, TCU's going to find a way to claw back into this game and get it under a touchdown.
You mean you hooked me up with some free swag before? Food truck festival gear, all that stuff. So I too have been compromised when it comes to my favorite analyst. What do you think? What's a bet in this game?
Yeah, I butter up the host with
You certainly
stuff
do
around
butter
the
me up,
holidays
buddy.
that I'm getting ready to donate. Anyway, in this game, we talk all these bowl games, like there's so much stuff that I love, and then we get to the college football playoff games, which normally I'm all in on, and this year I'm like, I kind of like this, kind of like that. If it's 7 or better with TCU, I will take the points in this game. I think that we do get a good game here. So yeah, anything better than 7, I'll take TCU. They've been hanging around all year, pulling games out of nowhere. K-State's finally going to be the team that gets them there. It's double digits in the fourth quarter, and we somehow go to overtime. I had K-State in that game, so thank God they came through. But TCU's going to hang around. They're not getting beat by more than a touchdown here against Michigan.
But Chinmay, Michigan's rushing attack has been nearly unstoppable this season, right? Even without Blake Corum in the backfield.
Michigan has been really good running the football, and they've been very good defensively. So this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard-fought contest, and obviously, it's a college football playoff. You expect it to be a hard-fought contest. But forget the points. I'm taking TCU straight up in this game. Give me Max Duggan getting back, getting healthy. They have a sour taste in their mouth after that Big 12 championship game. They wanted the undefeated season. They wanted that conference championship, and they nearly got there. And, whatever that 4th and 2 or 4th and goal, whatever it was, Max Duggan doesn't get the ball. Sonny Dykes is not going to make that mistake again. He's going to ride with his quarterback. I think TCU pulls off the upset here. Give me the Horned Frogs to shock the world and get it done against Michigan.
All right, Chinmay, what's the move, though, on the Peach Bowl here? What's the move on the DK Sportsbook for the Peach Bowl between Georgia's obviously going to have the home field advantage against the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I'd take Georgia with the points. This is not that complicated. Georgia has gotten up for every single big opponent. You look at Tennessee, you look at LSU, you look at even Florida. They had some tough run-ins against my own Missouri Tigers and the Kentucky Wildcats, but now they have a month to prepare. Ohio State is going to be motivated in this game, and that's kind of the brand name factor that I think is going to work against Ohio State. A lot of these players, these Georgia players, maybe they're not really concerned with who they're going to go up against. Obviously, they'll take anybody. They're the reigning national champions. But you see that Ohio State banner up there, and all of a sudden, you really want to put your mark on this game. So Ohio State has not really looked that great against top competition. Georgia has steamrolled every top team that they've played. Give me the Bulldogs with the points in this one. I think this could actually be a blowout.
Okay, Colin, Buckeyes are healthy. Maybe they give Georgia a little too much, huh?
No.
All right, pal.
Look, we are chasing so much steam here on this cast, but I do think that's actually the right play. This is actually where the public bowl games can actually be where the public is right. Remember, no JSN for Ohio State, no Travion Henderson. They got a guard out as well. Like, they're in trouble. They don't have bodies. And I think this is, and I'm someone who, when Kirby Smart got the Georgia legislature to change the laws about public records, saying that like people can't FOIA his email anymore, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you worried about all of these things? I think I need to accept that Kirby Smart might be Nick Saban 2.0. What he's built in Athens is truly sustainable. It is the next great dynasty in college football. He's an alum. He's not going anywhere. They got money to pay him. Like, they're going to keep this thing rolling. This train keeps moving, and they continue to commit to recruiting. I think Georgia wins this game. I think they have the number one defense in the country, and I don't think they just win it. I think it's like 17 plus. I'm going to be on the alt line on this game, and I'm going to bomb it.
All right, Jules, I mean, can you imagine a more scarier matchup, though, for Georgia as the Buckeyes?
Yeah, a handful of other teams I think would be more difficult than Ohio State. Ohio State looked great, 11-0, and then they get punched in the mouth by a physical team that can run the ball that came into their home stadium and blew them out. Now they're going to go essentially on the road to a stadium that Georgia's very familiar with, all these games in Atlanta, and play a team that is like Michigan but just better than Michigan in Georgia, that's going to be more physical, stuff it down your throat even harder, and it's going to get ugly. So I'm with the guys. I like Georgia here, and we'll just take, like, I don't care if it's TCU or Michigan. I'll take Georgia minus 125 to win it all and just get ahead of that one so I don't have to start laying points in that game.
All right, best time now to get what's left, like, of the value for a future bet here, Jules?
Oh, God, I just gave it. Sorry. So
yeah, no, it's perfectly fine.
I can just repitch it.
No,
Georgia,
you don't have to.
Minus 125 to win it all.
Thank you. Colin, what about you? What is there a future bet right now you believe people should hop on?
I'm going to wait until after the championship game this year, and I'm going to bomb USC to win the national championship next year. I think they're loaded, but I don't see any futures bets that like really jump out at me here. I think Georgia wins the national championship, and I think at 125 is like an okay price. I think it's fine. Especially I think Georgia would obviously be hoping to catch TCU, but if they catch Michigan, I think that's going to be a really good game, a really good matchup. Michigan matches up pretty well with Georgia. So that's why I don't really like betting the future here. So even though I think Georgia's going to smoke Ohio State, I think they might have some trouble with Michigan, and that's why I'm staying away.
All right, Chinmay, what do you think?
Well, everyone has Georgia winning. If you go on the straight forecast on the DK Sportsbook, you can get Georgia defeating Michigan as the correct result at plus 150. You can get Georgia defeating TCU as the correct result at plus 500. I think either of those plays are really good if you do believe, like I do, that Georgia is going to repeat as a national champion. I don't think it matters who they play. On the look-ahead line right now, Georgia and TCU is 15.5 to the Bulldogs. I would take Georgia on that one, honestly. Again, like I said, Georgia has gotten up for every single big game this season. They've walked through a couple games that they've clearly overlooked. But when the opponent is there and the stakes are there, Kirby Smart has gotten his guys ready to play. So I think Georgia's going to roll through this once again. And I like either of those forecast plays, plus 150, plus 500. Can't go wrong there.
Look at this. Look at your screen. There are not one but two games tonight around the association, and we're going to do some NBA zone coverage right now with DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne and Jeff Pratt. So Gare Bear's going to focus on the DK Sportsbook side of stuff. Pratt's going to tackle the DFS play from each game. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Spurs Pelicans. Garian, what's your go-to bet here, bud?
I'm almost afraid of this one.
Oh, no.
That's how bad San Antonio's defense is. But the team total for the Pelicans is really high tonight. It's 118.5 points. Despite the fact there's no Zion Williamson, there's no Brandon Ingram. This is a team that's lost 4 games in a row. I don't know. I think even going up against a team that has the 4th worst defensive rating in the month of December, I think they go under this number. I just don't trust the pieces that are left. You've got McCollum, you've got Jonas Valanciunas. Aside from that, I don't really know who's like a consistent source of offense for the Pelicans right now with their 2 studs on the sideline. And for as bad as the Spurs have been recently playing defense, there are 2 sort of like underlying positive things to think about here. One, even with the efficiency struggles they've had, they're only allowing 115 points per game in the month of December. And they're pretty slow in terms of their own offensive pace. They're going to slow this game down. It's just one of those, you have to have like 4 consecutive 30-point quarters to basically go over this number. I think the Pelicans have 1 or 2 bad quarters and just don't get quite there.
All right, Jeff, solid DFS option in this game. What do you got? Is there such a thing?
There is such a thing, I think. And quickly, just to touch on what Garion said, I completely agree. I think this is going to be a really ugly game. Greg Popovich is determined this year that if his team is going to play ugly basketball, then their opponents are going to play ugly basketball too. So I really like that pick. And then moving to DFS, Zion Williamson would have been the most expensive player on today's slate, but he was ruled out. And that being said, I wasn't going to pay up for him even if he was playing tonight, because I think you have a shot at the same level of production from someone who is almost $3K cheaper in CJ McCollum. And CJ has been pretty inconsistent over the last month or so, but he's picked his play back up as of late, scoring 44 plus fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's coming off a huge 56 fantasy point performance against the Bucks, and it will be much easier this time around against the Spurs, who ranked 22nd in fantasy points allowed to opposing backcourts. Garion said it themselves. The defense is a real struggle for San Antonio right now. With no Zion, no Brandon Ingram, I think CJ could be looking at a usage rate of 30%, 35%, maybe even higher. This is a great matchup and a great price for him tonight.
All right, guys, under 2 minutes to go in the show here. Gare Bear, what's landing on your betting slip from Wizards and Jazz?
I'm just going to go with Bradley Beal's points prop. It's at 23.5 right now. Obviously, it's kind of wonky to be like in his last 10 games because there's a large span of time where he was not playing. But Beal got off to a rough start at the beginning of the season, like back in October, early November. This also happened last season as well before we started turning it around. It seems like he's found something. If you don't include that game he got hurt against the Lakers and only played like 5 minutes, he's gone over 23.5 points in 9 of his last 10 starts. The Jazz have a really bad defense. They're 5th in defensive rating for the season as a whole. And also, Kristaps Porzingis might not play in this game. He's questionable, and Beal's got a usage rate above 30% when Porzingis is off the court so far this season. I like it either way. I like it even if Porzingis plays, but if he doesn't, lock this one in.
Jeff, who's a DFS player locking in?
I'm going with Kyle Kuzma as my pick tonight. He's coming off back-to-back 50-point games. There's so much to love about his prospects when you dive into the stats. His usage rate has dipped below 24% just once in his last 9 games, and it's going to be high again, especially if Kristaps Porzingis is out, as Garion was saying. He's barely coming off the floor, playing 36-plus minutes 5 times in his last 6. Before the season, if I had asked you guys to name the teams who would have 3 20-point scorers, no one would have said the Wizards. But all 3 of Kuzma, Porzingis, and Bradley Beal are figuring things out. I would roll with Kyle at 8,700 tonight.
I would have said the Wizards. That's it, though. That's all the time we have. Yeah,
I'm sure you would have.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I definitely know basketball. Okay, guys, thanks so much. It's been a wonderful year hosting shows and having you guys as part of our analysts and our panels. Thanks everybody for watching. We are. Oh yeah, if you have Masson. If you can watch Masson, watch us on Christmas Eve morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So we're going to talk the entire NFL slate then. So thanks everyone for watching. We love you, and we'll see you another time.